Hello everyone, and we are in the 2022 Infiniti QX55.
Which is actually kind of, yes, we had quite the discussion before we turned the cameras on about whether this was a CUV, meaning coupe utility vehicle, crossover utility vehicle, or compact utility vehicle. It's all those things, so there it is. But this is kind of cool for each of us because this is our first Infiniti loan, and we've also been the owners of Infinitis pretty recently.
Yeah, I had a G35,
which was
coupe.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
actually.
it had a little body kit on it. We've talked about it in previous videos, I think in my intro video, but I really love that thing. The VQ engine that was in that thing was like bulletproof and easy to modify as well. And then you had the X37.
I had my G37X,
Sorry,
which
G37,
was great, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get through this video, but let's move it along.
We usually start with the engine and the dynamics, but the best thing about this car is the looks, so let's start with the exterior.
Yeah, I think the biggest compliment that we can give this thing is that while we drove it around this week, a bunch of our friends thought it was a Lexus, which if you know our friends, it's a pretty high compliment to get.
Yeah, no, and I think it looks really good in this red paint. I'm not usually a fan, but it looks gorgeous in this color.
Yeah, I think this and Mazda and Mercedes Cardinal Red are some of the best reds in the game, and I personally like the drama that you get behind the wheel because you have this like almost wavy hood.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the hood looks really cool. In the front you have an oversized logo, which you were poking fun at earlier, but that's like where your radar and stuff is housed. You also have 20-inch wheels that look pretty good.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about this styling is that you have contrast everywhere. So there's like, it's predominantly red obviously, but you have black accents, you've got silver accents, you've got like gunmetal accents. There's a lot of dimension to the body. And then, you know, there's the 55 part of this because this isn't the QX50, it's the QX55. So that's the coupe or coupe part that
definitely not
triggers you, but it just means it has a sloping roof.
Yeah, so they call it an SUV coupe, which I think is a ridiculous name for this thing, but honestly, I think it is one of the best looking SUVs we've tested.
You know I'm gonna disagree, and I think it's just because inherently...
Traffic alert. US 45 intersection closed ahead.
It's the second time it's done that.
Like, we would love to be able to turn this off for you in the video, but we can't figure out how to do that. And we'll talk about the technology later in this video. But basically, my point being with this, and the styling of this whole coupe SUV thing is, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you buy an SUV to sit up higher, to have more cargo space, and to be more practical. And by having this coupe roof, it takes away that main point of the added practicality and the more cargo space. So it makes no sense to me.
I think it looks good. It actually has 27 cubic feet back there, so pretty decent.
Yeah, but I think I would also take an Audi A7, which has 25 cubic feet of cargo space, so only 2 less. The Audi A7 is a lot more money though, but we'll leave it there.
Rear seat, talk about that.
I think we fit okay when the car is in motion, but at both of us being just over 6'1", as soon as the car is off, that driver's seat goes back to let you get in and out easier, and then therefore that driver's seat eats your knees as it moves back. So like your rear seat passenger needs to get out first and get in last.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also you don't get a panoramic roof in this top trim Sensory. That's 60 grand as tested. So it's just a lot of black back there, but you do get these two-tone seats.
Yeah, I really like the white seats, and I'm confused as to why they didn't put a panel in here, because I think it would really make a huge difference. I feel like we're always huge fans, and I think a majority of consumers
This is a luxury product.
Yeah, I mean, a $65,000 SUV, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the Sensory trim, and we'll get into the price later, but like, it starts at 57-ish thousand, and as tested at 60 grand, it doesn't have a panel roof.
Yeah.
Like, this car is all about styling. It's all about like the look and the vibe, and to not have a pano, I think, is a big miss.
Yeah, so I think, let me just touch on a few things that the Sensory package does have. So you have heated and ventilated seats, which we both really like.
Love those, yep.
You have a heads-up display, which is in color.
That's good.
Motion activated power rear lights, cube design LED headlights, which are pretty cool. The 360 camera, I think the quality isn't the best. It's like 720. It's
like Toyota
it's not
quality.
that great. I mean, I just overall, the software in here needs to get updated, like the navigation system, the camera system, things like that. That just needs an overhaul.
Yeah, I guess just to wrap out the rear, like, the best thing that you get in the rear seat is the digital readout of the temperature.
Yeah, so it's
like wide
3 zones.
Yeah, it's 3 zones, which is nice.
You get 1 zone back there, basically.
Yeah, and you get digital readout. You don't get USB-C, you get regular USB and a 12 volt and some map pockets. But yeah, other than that, and let's talk about up front in the cabin where you're going to spend all your time.
Yeah, one thing that I do like that this thing comes with is the Pro Pilot Assist features and like some of the cruise control.
Yeah.
So that does like some of the auto braking, and it also has steering assist. I'd say it's definitely not as good as Hyundai's Driving Assist 2.0, but I think it would definitely give it like a run for its money.
Yeah, most of the stuff on the Pro Pilot is also standard except for I think your lane centering and your adaptive cruise. But here in our tester, obviously we have that, and it has been pretty good. I would put it up in about top 5 of the systems that we've tested, but yeah, we really liked that Hyundai system. That was very good. And I think Super Cruise is very good as well.
Yeah, I mean, the seats are pretty comfortable up here, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like the design is good. Like the design is interesting, it's kind of cool. The materials are nice, the leather is soft, the stitching is pretty good. You've got this raw open pore wood that I really like.
Yeah.
Like, stylistically, this thing doesn't really miss. And I think that's the big thing. Like when you look at it, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And then they have a dual heads-up display, which I think they've always just been a fan of, because my G...
The dual screens here,
Yeah,
you
the
mean?
dual screens, yeah. Sorry, not heads-up display, the dual screens, because my Infiniti G35 had that as well.
I'm trying to think. My G37 did not have dual screens.
It just had the one.
It just had the one up here.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why they did it, because like all of your display stuff is up here, like your map and your Apple CarPlay and all the stuff that you'll like want to look at, and then to control all the stuff is kind of down here. The thing that kind of gets me irritated is like you also have this dial here, which I have found incredibly not useful.
Yeah, I think they could have done without the dial. I like that everything's touchscreen, and then I also like how they put some of your most basic used features on the outside of the bottom display here.
Yeah, the HVAC stuff we complain about when it's not physical.
That's great that they did that here. And,
some of it makes sense.
I mean, again, I did mention it, but like the interface, the software for the navigation is really dated, but it does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so when your map is up there, the hardware for the actual screen is good quality. It's just that the software isn't updated. So your Apple Maps look a lot better.
Which is what you're going to use anyway.
Exactly.
And you're not going to use the stupid built-in navigation screen that yells at you.
I don't ding it on that.
Sure.
That front.
Fair enough.
But you also you have an analog dash as opposed to a digital dash, which most of its competitors have. I mean, all the Hyundais, that's an option.
Yeah, you just compare it to a Hyundai though. Like this is a miss, Infiniti.
Yeah.
Like
agreed.
This is your top trim. This is the Sensory, and this is got options on top of that. And we don't have a full digital cluster. And it's not to say that the analog is like necessarily bad. It's just behind. It's lagging.
Right.
And I think that's the theme of this video so far.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It just seems like Japanese luxury brands always lag with tech stuff. I mean, you have Lexus, which have been behind for so long, but they're finally getting better. You have Infiniti, which is lagging significantly, and then Acura. I mean, they're decent, but they still have like the touchpad, right, which can get annoying.
Yeah, the relative touch. Yeah, and I think the thing that's surprising to me is like you think of Japan and you think of like the leaders in technology. Like this is where all of the semiconductor manufacturing is made in the Far East, and like all like Japanese culture is inherently pretty technologically advanced. So to see this in their luxury products is just like kind of confusing. Well, we could talk about tech all day, but let's swap and let's talk about the driving experience. All
right. Well, we've avoided it for long enough. Let's talk about the driving dynamics and what's underneath the hood. So you have a 2-liter 4-cylinder making 268 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque, and you have a CVT transmission that is tuned to feel like an 8-speed. And unfortunately, like our experience with this thing over the course of a week has not been that great. I think just high level, it feels like the transmission and engine are trying to have a conversation and they're speaking different languages. They're just never in sync. The transmission just never seems to know what to do. I guess you can chime in with like what your thoughts
I mean, it's
were.
like it's a CVT that's pretending to be an 8-speed, and therefore like it's inherently going to be bad at both things. Like we talk about it being an 8-speed and this, pretending to be like maybe a performance entity, and it's not. The shifts are super slow, even in sport mode. And then in terms of fuel economy, like this thing gets what? Like 25 mpg combined?
Yeah.
And like my 3.7 liter naturally aspirated V6 with my 7-speed automatic gearbox, all-wheel drive, that made 328 horsepower, got the same combined MPG figure. So you've downsized cylinders, you've downsized displacement, you've added turbos, you've added a CVT, all in the effort of trying to, what, you make less power and the same fuel economy?
Yeah, no, it is kind of ridiculous. And just another hit, unfortunately, is it, to me, it sounds like a Toyota Prius. Like, it does not sound good. And we know that you can make a 4-cylinder turbo sound good. We've experienced it. Yeah,
and I think to me this is a big issue that I think Infiniti has missed. Like, they used to have such this big following in like the car community and the enthusiast scene. Like, the G35 was a huge enthusiast hit. Even the G37 in coupe form, because obviously the sedan is frumpy, but like these used to be like JDM icons. Maybe not icons in the sense of like a Supra or GTR, but like these were
US 41 entrance.
My God, this is what I'm talking about, Infiniti. Like, they've completely engineered out the enthusiasm. There's no feeling in this steering because it's steer-by-wire, and so it's like playing. It's like playing Forza on a sim rig with no force feedback.
Yeah, the steering inputs are also extremely harsh. Like, it makes sense in a fighter jet.
It's so sharp. The steering rack is so fast.
But not in this thing, and there's just no feel to what the tires are actually doing.
Yeah.
But 0 to 60, 6.3 seconds. Oh man.
Oh my God.
Guys, I've tried to turn this thing off. I guess I only spent 5 minutes on it, but it should be a pretty easy thing to turn off, I would think. So I think Matt also wants to talk about something that's been bugging him this week. I've also noticed it too. There's like a weird smell, and
yeah,
I don't know if it's just with the car that we have or if it's all of them, but I think it has obviously has something to do with the drivetrain.
You ever get out of like a newer car that you're on a test drive with, or even your own car that's like an automatic, like a normal stepped automatic transmission, and you go and you beat on it and you get like clutch smell? That's kind of what it smells like, but this is a CVT, so that doesn't really make sense, but it's absolutely coming from the powertrain.
Yeah, and then I think last thing we want to cover with the drivetrain is just some of the drive modes that you have. So you have individual, sport, normal, and then eco. And Matt's had a few bad experiences with some of the different drive modes, so he's going to go into another rant now. Another rant, yeah.
So Part 2.
Sit back, guys.
So here's my problem. In eco mode, you dial it back, and it's like dangerously unresponsive. Like, you have to go at least 50% into the pedal to get any sort of response from the engine, and then since this engine relies so heavily on the turbo, it then takes more time to get boost and like for the thing to do anything. So I was trying to turn right into an intersection, and I was almost T-boned by an oncoming car because this thing just didn't do anything. And then in standard mode, like, I don't think this, like the actual 2-liter 4-cylinder, I don't think does much of anything because I don't feel any sort of power from it until the turbo comes in. The turbo comes in and then boom, you're way off, but then you have almost too much power. Like, it's almost undrivable behind somebody that's going at a reasonable speed or driving like a normal person. Like, imagine trying to follow somebody on a side street and you're just like constantly at either 0% throttle input or like 90% throttle. Like,
yeah,
it's just crazy.
I think the gap in power between what the engine can do and the turbo is just too significant, and it happens at such a rapid pace. I think like a twin scroll on here probably would have done better to just have the power be a little bit more gradual. It's too harsh right now, to your point. Like, you can't really drive it.
And I'm not quite done, so I'll just like 1 or 2 more things real quick. So when you do, so basically the way that this is tuned is like you have to be at full tilt all the time. So if you do end up getting at full tilt and you do put this thing into a corner, you're gonna understeer around mid-corner. Like, it's just...
I actually didn't feel that.
I experienced this. It's a front-wheel drive biased all-wheel drive system. That's just inherently like what's gonna happen. So it's not like the end of the world, but that's just something that you have to be aware of. And then we did talk about it a little bit before, but like the steering is just too fast.
Yeah.
It's just tuned too fast.
That was a lot.
That's it. That's my whole rant. So I don't think Subaru or Infiniti will ever give us a press loan again.
Probably not. And I guess last thing I'll just touch on real quick is price. So it starts at $46,000, and the sensory trim level that we're in is just under $60,000. There's that smell again.
Yeah. Sensory starts at like $57K, and we have options on top of that.
So it gets us to 60. Yeah, I think we have the lighting. You're right. We have the lighting package. Oh,
which is kind of cool.
The under lighting is actually, I like that.
I do like that. Bring underglow back.
Okay, so final thoughts. Let's wrap it up. Again, I'll say it. Hot take. I think this is probably one of my favorite, best looking exterior SUVs that we've tested. And I think, you know, Matt was pretty harsh about some of the features, the drivetrain, but I think most individuals that are purchasing this car might not even pick up on the transmission issues, but I think that they will definitely be upset about the lack of tech, the software, and then also the harsh steering. I think anyone would pick up and be really frustrated with that. The best thing going for this car is its looks, and I think that you know, they just missed the mark here.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And basically, my overarching final thoughts are just this. And it's this simple. If you love the way that this thing looks and you're all about the style, go for it. If you care, if this look is not exactly what you want, don't buy this car.
Yeah,
buy the Acura RDX. It's a comprehensively, I think, better car. It's less expensive, and yeah, it's again. But then you're not getting the coupe.
I
think that's a good time to end. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next video.